Hey, gang, DP. It is the great debate. Greatest coach of all time.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, it's DP. Boom, says so right there. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. This episode brought to you, folks, by FanDuel Sportsbook. We appreciate the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. FanDuel.com/lockedon. For all of your bets, whatever prop bets you want, they've got them there at FanDuel.com. Get yourself ready for March Madness. I wanted to spend a bit of this episode in tribute to the birthday gentleman. I can't. He's too refined to call him the birthday boy. I'll call him the birthday gentleman. I'll call him the birthday coach. He is Dr. Tom Osborne, just celebrating his 86th birthday. And I've been on the road a bit and having some discussion about where he falls in the college coaching pantheon. Yes, as a matter of statement and a matter of fact, no matter who you are and where you are in the country and whatever level of football fans you are, Dr. Tom Osborne is on the Mount Rushmore of college coaches. And if you disagree, you're wrong. That's how simple that will be. For his numbers and his impact, and specifically his final 5 seasons as the head coach at the University of Nebraska, and for him to dismount from coaching at the very apex, at the very top, as a champion, winning a championship in his final game, that's a big part of the discussion. The run, the 60-3 run over the course of his final 5 years, is unmatched. And to be able to consider that in this thing that is college football, a lot of the things that are done from a coaching staff standpoint, from a game preparation standpoint, and then a game psychology standpoint, can be directly threaded through Dr. Tom Osborne and his run at the University of Nebraska. Now, being from Hastings gives some, I don't know, it's adding shine to the diamond. Being from Hastings, being an elite athlete in high school, being an elite athlete in college. As a matter of fact, that the player of the year in both high school and college, and then threading himself through another legendary coach, walking directly in the footprints of Bob Devaney, and then finding his way from an unpaid assistant to offensive coordinator in a matter of 7 years. That's a really cool story. And if you wrote that story for a movie, people probably wouldn't believe it, that this unpaid assistant will go on to become one of the great coaches of all time. And I kind of teased the lead because I wanted you to think and ponder for a brief moment that discussion of the greatest coach in college football history. Now, that conversation has evolved, and it's actually fluid. Recent performances in college football have changed the discussion and give us more room to work from. But to understand what he did, and not only in the final 5 years, but in the duration of his career, is pretty exceptional at any school, and it doesn't matter what the school is. But let's say this, that he plays at Hastings, drafted by the 49ers, didn't make the team, was signed by the Washington Redskins, played for 2 seasons, won the very last NFL game he played in. And for those of you folks who know me, knowing that I'm a Washington football fan, that I get some great joy in the fact that He won one game as a member of the Washington Redskins, and that one was the last game he played with the Washington Redskins. And letting you further know that as a fan of that franchise, that it is far more meaningful that the last win and the only win in his last game was against the Dallas Cowboys. Extra bonus in that. And then as an assistant coach, going on the run and winning those two titles under Devaney, and then becoming the head coach in 1973. Numbers tell whatever story and from whatever slant you want. That's kind of where we are now. That numbers, while factual, people will put context on it and try to say that 120 wins in this era is different than 120 wins in another. But what we can simply say is that he won national championships. 3 national championships, 1994, 1995, and 1997. He won 12 Big 8 championships. Big 8 championships, 1 Big 12 championship, and then 2 Northern Division championships in 96 and 97. Did not. He won the – okay, so here's the thing. He won 7 Big 8 Coach of the Year awards. What leaves me to ponder is how he's the Coach of the Decade but wasn't multiple Coach of the Year winners. Ponder that for a second, that how bad things are in perspective. Can we just retroactively go back and make him the Coach of the Year all of the years of his career, except for the 3 that Barry Switzer won? Can we do that? I don't think that's asking. I think collectively, as a fan base, for his birthday, we're going to retroactively award him not only Coach of the Decade, but Coach of the Year several times over. We're toward the break here. I do want to talk about what's going on in Nebraska football as they try to build towards and ramp themselves up towards spring game, April 22nd, Memorial Stadium. And then I want to bounce through a little bit of what's going on in the 2 basketball programs and the volleyball program here at the University of Nebraska. We'll do that when we come back to Locked On Huskers. Welcome back, gang, to Locked On Huskers. Again, we thank you for making Locked On Huskers the first watch and listen each and every single day. Make your second watch and listen Locked On College Basketball as we get you all ramped up for March Madness, these conference tournaments, all the stuff you need. Isaac Shade, Andy Patton will take you through on and off the floor. You can find out what's going on, talk to some of the best coaches, best players. You'll find out everything you need to know about college basketball and Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or however you consume your daily podcast. The birthday of Dr. Tom Osborne, and talking about him as on the Mount Rushmore of college coaches. And I think it would be sad and fair to say that 2 Alabama coaches are on that Mount Rushmore, that Nick Saban and Bear Bryant are on the college football Mount Rushmore. Firmly there is Dr. Tom Osborne as the 3rd, and then we can have several discussions that maybe Bob Devaney, maybe Newt Rockne, maybe like it's not that complicated beyond that to talk about the greatest coaches in college football history. I think Newt Rockne, because of his numbers, just to give you a little bit of what it is, that Rockne won 5 national championships in 11 years, 12 years, 11 years. That's pretty exceptional. Like, if you're going to talk what this is. And then he, of course, has, the historical speech, win one for the Gipper. That's a big thing. Bear Bryant, but point of conversation, Newt Rockne won 86% of his collegiate games. So Bear Bryant with more wins, probably the most famous name in all of coaching. 6 national championships, 14 SEC championships, 24 straight bowl games. Okay, Bear. Yeah, you did too much. There's in that time that we're talking about, but over that 5-year stretch I was talking about for Coach Osborne, he won 95% of those games. 25 postseason rankings. That's pretty good. And then those national titles and Heisman Trophy winners don't hurt. Some would say Joe Paterno. You could have that discussion whether he's your fourth. Bobby Bowden down in Florida State could be in that conversation. Bud Wilkinson in Oklahoma, and what he did in that period of time, and they won 14 conference championships in 17 years under Bud Wilkinson. So Alabama would get to maybe Barry Switzer sneaks in, but Tom Osborne definitely in. Bob Devaney a part of the discussion. And I think that's a fair way to at least get eyes on what this was. He won 13 conference championships, and at 255, 49, and 3, of all the coaches we're talking about, it's the winning percentage that ranks right up there with Newt Rockne. Just exceptional. Like Bear Bryant, it was the running game. And then his ability to adapt to the needs of that group of players that he had from year to year that made Coach Osborne unique. We've talked to several of his former players, and they all speak of the psychology that he works from. This is, with a degree in educational psychology, yeah. There was a method to the madness. And it showed up in his relationships, to have different players talk about their conversations with Coach Osborne, that generally they started with, he got to the truth, which also implied that he cared about the truth. When you speak of integrity and character, being strong, being a relationships person, these were all boxes that you would check for the legendary coach Tom Osborne, and why people hold him in the high regard that they do. Also, in that several moments, finally getting over the hump, the often talked about and revisited and relived 2-point conversion, whether you kick the extra point and claim the extra national championship, or the first national championship, then finding a way to get the wins, and then finishing with a championship win. All of these things, the pipeline, the defensive flexibility, and being able to just have a constant flow and influx of talented, gifted, physical players, and then managing those players from team to team, from season to season, from series to series, as a matter of fact. I think, for me, I would put him side by side with Bear Bryant. I would put him slightly above Nick Saban because of what he had to do at Nebraska. That while Tuscaloosa is not exactly a hotbed, it is in the South, and it is much easier to recruit to. I have great appreciation for getting people to come to Lincoln, stay there, excel there, grow there, and be a part of it. Coach Osborne brought talented people to Lincoln, Nebraska, developed them, and then sent them into the world and made them better than they were before they got there. Toward the break, when we close out Locked on Huskers, it will be about volleyball, men's basketball, women's basketball, the Big Ten women's basketball tournament, and then our eyes towards the men's Big Ten basketball tournament. Here, Locked on Huskers. Final segment of this episode of Locked on Huskers. And once again, I want to thank the folks from FanDuel for sponsoring this episode and making sure that every moment more. Make every moment more. That's literally what this is all about. Whether you're a big time uh, odds guy or girl, whether wagering is fun, whether it's a thing that you do in your friendships, whatever it is, and whatever the sport, make every moment more. FanDuel.com/locked on. I want to close with a couple of things. One, that August 25th, August 30th, apologies, August 30th, Nebraska volleyball will play an outdoor volleyball game at Memorial Stadium. They'll play against the University of Nebraska Omaha. There'll be another match prior to that, and then a concert that follows. This is all in an effort to erase and just destroy the current attendance high in college volleyball. I think the numbers will play out. There is some boundary set that it's the number of people who are there at the beginning of the second set for the Nebraska and the Nebraska Omaha match. That number will be the number that the attendance has to beat, and I believe the number has to be 16,834. And I have a sneaky suspicion that with 4 Nebraska schools playing, they'll get that record done. Big week coming up Thursday, 11:30 in Minneapolis. The women's basketball team will jump into the Big Ten tournament. They avoid the first day play, but they get to come in and play number 9 Michigan State, a team that they beat 71-67 a couple of weeks ago. In a game that Nebraska led by double digits at halftime, and then had to hold on for a 4-point win. But the matchup, I think they would be happy with the matchup. I hope that they do not get their eyes forward and beyond that. But this team has a remarkable ability to play at the talent of the people they're playing against. If they get their eyes forward past Michigan State, they directly are in line and on course with facing top 5 ranked Indiana. And I went through this mental discussion that it doesn't really matter what their ranking was, because if you win a game, you're going to end up with 4 teams who could all possibly end up in the Final Four. That's how good the Big Ten top shelf is. So good luck to Amy Williams and the women's basketball team. And then the men's basketball team have played themselves into a very interesting situation. Tomorrow night, they will face Tuesday night, they will face Michigan State at home. I have a feeling the crowd is going to be pretty raucous and pretty full. Big opportunity to get a win, and then they will close out their season against Iowa on the weekend. But a chance to play themselves out of the play-in games, that early first-round games, and then into a second night of games. Also, playing yourself above 500. If they can win out in conference, they'll be at 500 going into the tournament. If they go 1-1, they'll be above 500 going into the tournament. And with a very high probability of playing themselves into the NIT tournament, which was a thing that if we said that a month ago, we would have been laughed at and mocked. To each of the players who have played just exceptional basketball, even with duress, even with injuries, even with doubt and question, to get those players into this situation took a remarkable job of coaching by Coach Fred Hoiberg, remarkable leadership from Derrick Walker, Sam Griesel, C.J. Walker, getting Kasich Tamanaga and his emergence as a legitimate Big Ten scoring threat. And then Sam Hoiberg coming off the bench, the maturing of Jamarcus Lawrence. This has been fun to watch if you're a Husker hoops fan. They'll have a chance to play themselves through. We will stand and support them. Thank you once again for allowing Locked On Huskers to be your first watch and listen each and every single day. And please make your second watch and listen each and every day Locked On College Basketball. Isaac Shade, Andy Patton will take you through, get you prepared for March Madness and these tournaments. Find them all on YouTube or however you consume your podcast. We close this episode of Locked On Huskers with those 3 words that we love so much. I want to hear them at PBA on Tuesday night. Go Big Red.